I just want to kind of give you an idea of, what do managing agents do? What information are they looking at? What information is essential management gathering for our clients? And how do we do that? So I got brought on by this property in 2024, and I had to take it over from a managing agent that had the property basically since the sponsor transferred ownership over to the owners. And a lot of the problems that we went through as a property was gathering the information that the property needed to determine what increases they needed to make to maintain and sustain their day-to-day operations, which, when I took over the property, it was, sometime during this period, you could see the bank account slowly starting to deteriorate. I mean, they had $8,600 in 2020. They had a little spike of cash, at the beginning of that month, beginning of that year, of 2021. They had a bit of a spike, but then consistently started going down until I came on board pretty much fully the whole calendar year 2025, where I said, this building cannot sustain the level of bleeding without you guys digging into your pockets just a little bit more. So at that time, we had to calculate a 2020, we had to calculate an increase. There was absolutely no way this building was going to sustain the level of operating income, sustain the same level of operating income over the last 5-6 years. Again, you could see the steady flow of income coming in from these few years, and they were floating their account on, $11,000 worth of, over the years where they were still selling property from the sponsor to the condo, about $12,000 worth of income from the sponsor. It's like, that money goes away very quickly in the world of real estate, especially in the world of New York, small building, 10 unit and under real estate. So, me being the numbers guy that I am, I brought them on board and I say, look, this is what I do. This is how I do it. I need to get an idea of where it is that you were and where it is that you're at and where it is that you're going. I need the information. And it was like pulling teeth to get any kind of financial data from the prior managing agent. I had to sift through and kind of get an idea of what was this building doing. I mean, these guys were not making any decisions at the property. This guy was bleeding this building dry. It was terrible. I mean, these are the kinds of things we hop in here and we're looking at, what is it that this building is used to? What are the decisions that this building is making that essentially gives them the right to continue bleeding? And I mean, just look at it, over the course of 6 years, $20,000 in repairs, even more if we're calculating repairs, security surveillance, supplies, pest control, professional and capital. I mean, almost 40 grand worth of actual costs. I mean, just cleaning the interior and cleaning the exterior and having trash removed over the course of 6-7 years, $33,000. I mean, this is where the budgets are going. I mean, almost $72,000 in total. Now you have your fire sprinkler safety, which we're adding some cost of saving services in this column in the 2026 budget projection. And that's how we were able to calculate, like, what is it that this company needs in order to get them to where they need to go. This was the calculator that I devised to kind of get them an idea of like, hey, look, okay, so you're running a deficit of, in my calculation, again, I didn't do anything for 2026, but we're pulling numbers from actual data. We're creating projections. What would it look like if they increased on a 5% basis, 6%, 7%, 8%, all the way? I mean, I'm sure that there's an online calculator that does this kind of stuff. But again, I have to be able to show them live during a meeting, this is what your numbers are. Click on that tab. Did you check the Excel sheet? Do you know your numbers? So this is, again, Investor 101. Do you know your numbers? Clearly they didn't. Over the last 5-6 years, clearly they didn't. They knew enough that they needed to get out of the boat that they were in with the prior managing agent. They knew that they needed to get out of that boat. which is great. I mean, nobody wants to be a part of this scenario where their building is bleeding. They didn't have the financial captain, to show them what, to start steering the course. And, again, just 1 degree turn can totally change the outcome 15, 20 years down the line. And that's the kind of mental projection that we're looking to instill in these buildings, is do what you can today so that your financial goals tomorrow are a little bit more successful or a little bit more realizable. So again, just to give you an idea of some of the trends that are going on in the last 6 years, commercial D&O umbrella policy. So your commercial, I'm not here to explain what those are. We could do a separate, podcast for that. But, it's slowly on the trend up. I see some bumps up and down here, but 2026 is going to be a doozy because the company that they've had for all 6 years is backing out of the New York State market. And wow, they were the cheapest. I mean, they offered the same comparable coverage that you would expect. This building's like $2 million for building replacement cost. But the problem is that when companies exit the market, you're forced to shop around, and then you're dealing with, scrupulous brokers trying to give you the highest priced option or give you comparisons between higher priced options when, there's a few other companies that I would like for the current broker to shop with, and it's either they can do that or they can't, because I know that these other companies would be able to give, maybe 30-40% above the actual costs in 2025, as opposed to, 70-80%, sometimes 100%, doubling down. So these are, again, we have to come to the conclusion for the owners, do that homework, understand the numbers, understand the process, so that we could present your 2026 budget. Oh, what did I do here? Oh, I gotta drag this up. So that we could present your 2026 budget line item so that you can get the actual numbers that you're looking at, what we project for you. By 12/31/2026, you're going to be bleeding an extra $1,200. Do you want to do an increase or not? Or here's the strategy. You have about $5,400 in your bank account as of 12/31/2025. If you don't do an increase because everybody likes to spend their money on lattes and going out to party, or they have, events that they want to attend and spend tens of thousands of dollars during the course of the year instead of putting their money towards the investment, you could survive. I mean, again, you guys have $5,400 in a bank account for a 7-unit building. If you guys want to go ahead and take the hit, that's your call. It's your building. It's your investment. These are the numbers. These are the projections. What do you want to do? And we leave that up to them. So you could see the trend in the history that I have had to build over the course of time. And again, some of these numbers may not be accurate because the record keeping from the prior managing agent was just a shit show. So we had to use a combination of bank statements and also whatever financial records we were able to scour through to pull these numbers together to get them an idea of where they've been spending their money. I mean, look at pest control. Over the course of 5-6 years, almost $8,000 in pest control. I mean, I get it. I get that there's rat infestations and cockroach infestations and all these kinds of things going on at properties. But wow, like, we're talking money. Wow. It's no joke. Some pump, we just had another cost. These are the kinds of costs that, if somebody's doing something in the basement that's causing financial loss, destroying equipment, these are the kinds of things that we need to build a protocol around so that we could stop that bleeding. Somebody went down there and touched a knob and all of a sudden it started backing up in the unit, backing up in the sump pump enclosure and destroyed it. Again, this was a brand new pump. So they literally doubled the money again. $5,000 worth of sump pump costs over the course of a year and a half is not good for a building of 7 units. For any building 10 units and under, these systems should be able to last, between 5 and 10 years with or without maintenance. But, again, it becomes the repair versus replacement cost. Would you rather service that equipment knowing that during the cost of servicing it over the course of 2 or 3 years annually, you could actually just replace the equipment? So these are the concerns that we raise to these properties to kind of ensure that they have the full scope of idea of what it takes to operate this property and the options that they could head in order to kind of make the best financial decision that fits their investor profile. You know, another trend that I noticed for this property was just the clearly, you know, somebody is running this water. I mean, you know, for a building of this size, it's almost $1,000 over, you know, what other buildings of this size generate in water charges. There's no explanation for that. You know, somebody needs to turn off the faucet. Somebody needs to stop running the long hot showers, and that's it. So again, you know, that was the history, and we added the 2025 actuals, and then, you know, here's the level of clarity that we provide based on actual data from the prior year's budgeted line items towards the last year's actuals. So we make that comparison, and then we draw the conclusion on the future year's projection. So these two line items are dealing with that. So we have the 2025 budget that we planned and implemented at the end of 2024 for the calendar year, 2025. What actually happened in the year 2025? And then what are we looking at for the year 2026? How is it that this property is going to get from point A to point B in 2026? Again, yes, they have $5,000 cash on hand at the end of 2025. Great news, but we have to continue to plan. We always advertise at least 20% reserves cash on hand. We always advertise that these companies are saving money for the long-term capital repairs and the short-term capital repairs. And just like every other building in New York State, I mean, in New York City, in America, in the world, you know, it's people are buying these brand new condos, and they're going through these phases where you know, they're hiring teams to rip them away from what the sponsor promised them in the offering plan versus what was actually built. It's just not the same. You know, you've got $60,000-$70,000 worth of capital expenses that need to be pumped into this building to stop some bleeding, like water leaks or failed systems, leaking facades or windows, or just, hey, there's a rainstorm in my unit. So you have to pump this kind of 5 to 6 figure cost into this building, even though it just got built like 5, 6, 7 years ago. So again, we're operating these budgets just based on operational stuff. Again, we're talking your regular year-to-year insurance policy, property management and offices and office fees, your fire safety line items, your porter and super related stuff, cleaning waste and snow removal, your repairs and security surveillance supplies and pest control items, your maintenance and inspections, utilities, other professional fees would be, filing tax appeals and, any other filing requirements that would be needed, like local law 152, annual parapet inspections, things along those lines. Well, actually, I have a line item for parapet annual inspection. I actually need to put back in the professional fees for this building did file their tax appeal, because, the tax appeal attorney did see some benefit to continue filing for this property. So we did file paperwork for that. But again, we're looking at these budgets in a holistic manner. What is your operational budget going to look like? What is the day-to-day activities that need to be paid for so that these buildings can survive? Knowing that their building isn't bleeding on the day-to-day operational stuff, knowing that somebody is looking after and caring for the level of giving that building the level of peace of mind that they need in order to ensure that proper day-to-day functions are taken care of or looked after. Again, repairs and maintenance, just based on prior history, we're talking almost $25,000 worth of repairs and maintenance from the past. I can't say that a budget of $1,250 just because last year's actuals of $485 is somehow this isn't going to be completely blown out of the water for a $5,000 charge. Again, this building is looking at quite a few capital expenses based on some physical observational data that they collected in 2024-2025 from a leak detection expert. Again, this is physical non-invasive observations. Visual non-invasive observations from a thermal imaging report. Based on that report, they're looking to proceed with how is it that they could gather more information to determine what is the shortcut towards that that peace of mind at the end of the day, knowing that their property is taken care of. In my opinion, it's going to involve legal. It's going to involve architects and engineers to do invasive testing, such as probing. It's going to involve actually getting the work done, soliciting those bids to those companies that are going to get the facade work, that are going to get the roof work, the balcony work, and the front yard work completed for you. They're going to have to put that package together with the information that you gather from legal and architect and engineer. That's just my professional opinion as a managing agent. And I know that this building is trying to gather more information, to help them just shortcut the way to the contractors by hiring me and setting some type of expectations that just doesn't exist. So I definitely look forward to the next call, because if that's what you want from your managing agent, it's best that you hire somebody that's going to give you that peace of mind, because I don't want that sweat off of my back. That's wow. Imagine depending on a guy with a broker's license to give you high level data so that you can make, you could level the bids for construction companies to come in there and perform work and give you that level of peace of mind that you're looking for. Imagine depending on a property manager to give you that high level data to level those bids. Right? That's the field I deal with, is just people are filling promises in their heads, and I'm here to set expectations and get the fuck out of the way if that's the most important thing that I could do, is just not take on properties anymore, or not continue doing management for these kinds of properties. But I'll give you an example of what 2026 looks like, right? So we got notice of non-renewal for the company because they're exiting the market, and I'm projecting based on prior years data from other companies that you're probably going to be doubling down on the total cost of an insurance policy, which includes commercial, D&O, and umbrella, if they elect it. I don't know. I mean, this company hasn't had D&O and umbrella for 6-7 years, and I don't know if they're going to go for it, but I come on board and I advertise all the options that you have for insurance, and whatever it is that you guys want to do, you guys can go ahead and do that. Some of the office and management stuff, it stays the same. I don't see any changes there. Again, they're going to have to make a decision on whether or not they file it for an accountant. My management fees don't change. Central station monitoring bumped up about $100. Monthly sprinkler inspection. So this was an interesting one. I moved the existing company out of this building and saved them about $1,000 going forward every single year. So this year they're still going to see about a $1,200 bill, because I need to close out 2025's monthly sprinkler inspection from the prior company. So you can see just 2 bills, a half a year's worth of charges, is more than what I'm paying to get the monthly sprinkler inspections for the whole year from the new company. That's the amount of that's the level of care that I provide for these properties, is that I'm saving you, literally, I'm cutting this bill almost in half, if not more. I'll just 50-60%. I'm saving you 50-60% on your monthly sprinkler inspections, because I'm coming in here and I'm like, the stuff needs to change. We need to stop some bleeding in some areas, and we need to get you guys a better holistic view of where you're going to be in 2026. And I'm doing better every single year, and we're presenting information better, we're presenting requirements better, we're presenting those options better. I got companies that will fight tooth and nail. They'll be like, I don't even need to do the monthly sprinkler inspections. Where is it required? And I'm like, here's what NFPA 25 says. You make a decision. What is it that your company is in for? What is it that it's out for? I mean, $500 split between 10 units and under is like a couple bucks a day. Not even. I mean, like, if you do the calculation, it's, $520 divided by, let's say for this building, it's 7 units. It's $74 per unit, right, for the year, divided by 12 months, right? So for $6 a month per unit, you get the peace of mind knowing that somebody's coming to your property to visually inspect your sprinkler system, to ensure that it is proper and functional, and that the gauges are providing the right level of pressure, and that, the valves look X, Y, and Z. So they're doing visual observations, not physical testing or draining, which is a separate line item that this company hasn't gone for, but that we also advertise. But this is the level of information that we're gathering, and we're also introducing cost-saving options to ensure that the property is running as lean as possible, but still getting somewhere, still taking care of the mandatory and required items as much as I can put the information in front of them. So, going down the list, fire extinguisher inspections, again, as recommended by NFPA, the annual tagging every single year actually is required by FDNY, as well as monthly sprinkler inspections is required by FDNY. quoting on what is it that we're going to do for porter and related duties, cleaning, waste removal, snow removal, things like that. So I went as high level detail as possible. It's like, here's the monthly. The 2025 bonus was paid in 2026, and also 2026's bonus should be paid in 2026. So we're allocated. That's why there's a bump in the price over here of about $600. Is that 2025's bonus was paid in 2026? Okay, and then we're looking to pay 2026 in 2026 to catch up and just make sure that we stay within budget on that. Repairs, again, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that there's some leaks in the common area that they want to cut open sheetrock, and then we're going to identify where that leak is coming from, whether it's a pipe behind the wall or whether it's coming from the roof. Again, in this building, we got the complaint actually the first snowstorm, so it's like, oh geez, here we go. In addition to all the other 5 to 6 figure projects that need to go on at this property, right? Supplies, NYC is requiring for buildings 9 units and under to implement at their property city branded bins, in an effort to fight rat and rodent infestation. Again, these bins have not been successful in deterring rats and rodents from chewing through the material that the bins are created out of. I've seen the bins chewed through already, but nonetheless, that's my specialty, is 10 units and under. So, we're introducing that line item cost to these properties. Exterior rat base station costs, again, we're drafting that. We are not looking to have any annual sump pump maintenance. Again, we just installed it in November 2025 because the system that was installed in November 2024 broke. And it wasn't the contractor's fault. It was somebody went downstairs and they shut off the line, and then it by shutting off the line, the drain line, there's a shut off valve to the drain line. The water stayed inside the sump pump pit, and it burnt out the motor. It's like, these things aren't indestructible. They cost money. It's like, you guys can't do this anymore. So we actually introduced some cost saving items, like for security and surveillance, to get that taken care of. Backflow annual inspection, parapet annual inspection, things that we advertise for them to do. Again, DEP backflow annual inspections is going to be, to allocate the cost for some of the things that we had to deal with, which was 2024's non-filing. We showed up to DEP, we showed up to oath hearing on last week, Friday, the 13th. And we got to battle down the $3,000 fine to $600, which we're backing out of the prior company's invoice for 2024. Starting in 2025, we've reduced their bill about, what were they charging? We reduced their bill about $600. So again, by switching companies for this 2026 calendar year, we're saving them about $1,500 a year. So it's a lot of money at the end of the day, especially when your budgets are running a deficit of about $1,200. Again, this is still editable. I have some costs that I need to introduce here. But just getting you an idea of what essential management does behind the scenes day to day. What are we looking at? How is it that we help clients get from point A to point B? What are the strategies that we help implement? What are the cost saving effective methods that we're introducing at properties? What is the clarity and the level of realization that clients need to have about their investments that helps them get from point A to point B? Again, whether that's maintain the property at status quo and do minimal amount repairs, or try to get this property out of the mud or out of the deficiencies, the physical, structural or non-structural deficiencies, getting them out of that. We are able to build, essential management, Shen is able to build a strategy around those kinds of ideas, helping properties get from point A to point B. And it's all with the numbers. Again, step 1, building a better investor 101. Know your numbers. You have to know your numbers. You have to be able to dance around these kinds of numbers and just say, yep, I know exactly what that's for. We got people showing up at these meetings and they have no idea what they're reading here. I have no idea how to better present it. I really don't. I mean, these things are clearly legible. I mean, if you have zero experience running a budget or building a budget, you need to get on the same page. You need to have an idea of what it's like to look at these numbers, understand these numbers, mull over these numbers, make edits, play with an Excel sheet, get an idea of how is it that this project is going to get to from point A to point B, such that, you know, I can implement my investor ID related strategies. I mean, and then I guess you could cross-reference them with me, and we could get some of the shit that's just shouldn't be in your investor ID strategy book, and get you in front of some information that can really help you get to where you need to go. Anyways, guys, like, comment, subscribe, give me a holler, let me know what you guys think in the chat. Get me an idea of where you guys are at with these kinds of things, and you know, if you have any comments or questions, we could always hop on a call and see if there's anything that I could do for you guys. All right, take it easy.